We got to bounce back. You got a big game against Carolina. You can get it back. I mean, you're still in this thing, Dave. Don't worry.
I need your daily coach
it was
today.
A tough play.
I need your words of wisdom today, Michael, to get me through.
Yeah, I mean, you might have to come into the office today. I mean, I think to me, I was a little worried about you. We start the day off, and it's just. The kid they just bring up from the practice squad, he touches the ball. Like, what are we doing here? Just stay out of the way. Great punt block. But, look, after the game, I got to say this to you. I think Joe Burrow is fabulous. I think Cincinnati is such a bad team.
Ooh.
I mean, they're such a bad team. They've got great players, and if the game was played without any contact, they could be the best team in the league. But my Lord, I mean, Joe Burrow does some incredible things, avoiding tacklers, making plays on the move, and then, of course, they're able to. But that defense, they actually made the Cowboys' offense look good.
They did. 27-20 is the final. Bengals cover the 5 inexplicably there. It does stay under the total. It went all the way up to 50.5. It stays under, rounding out at 47 there. Michael, we talked about it. We talk about it every week. Like everybody, remember, if you're like me on the Cowboys last night, you had the right side, wrong result. If you were like us and you were on the Dolphins, you got the right result, wrong side. This happens. So this is one of those, as you mentioned, you get the block punt at the 2-minute warning. It's the first play inside the 2-minute warning, and Dallas is going to have the football at the Bengal 40. If you just stay away from Peter, everybody just runs away from the football. Cowboys will have the ball at the 40, but you mentioned Oruwariye, who comes up from the practice squad, inexplicably touches the ball. It's the Leon Lett situation all the way over from 1993 for long-suffering Cowboy fans. We remember that one in the snow against the Dolphins. And then all of a sudden that leads to the Jamar Chase touchdown and the go-ahead score and the cover. But there are takeaways. Elliot and I mentioned it here, our esteemed producer, L.A. Bowman, that they're now 11-1 to make the playoffs, the Bengals. It keeps their faint hopes alive. And Dallas, look, you get the injury to Overshawn. You get Beebe goes out with a concussion at halftime. It just looks like it's a mass unit there in Dallas. I didn't have any real visions of grandeur anyway, Michael, of making the postseason this year. But it does feel like two teams that you got to run the table. And I don't know if these teams are good enough to run the table either in Cincinnati or Dallas going forward.
Well, I mean, Cincinnati. Look, Dallas is over with. I mean, they're not going anywhere. You can't even run to the window. I don't think Derek Stevens would take your money. I think Derek would feel guilty about taking your money on a Cowboy play. But I do think that the Bengals are just not good enough. I mean, that defense was so bad. The offensive line is a joke. When they had to put the Cowboys, when they had to put Bass in there, when Beebe got hurt, they had to put Bass in at right guard. That was atrocious.
Yep. You had to slide Hoffman.
He was a turnstile.
Yeah, you had to slide Hoffman to center. And you saw they started blitzing up the middle, Michael. They couldn't handle the blitz.
Oh, it was horrible. So this is what happens when you don't have great depth on your team and then you don't have great starters. That tells you how bad the depth is, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Giants. When they lose an offensive lineman, they don't go from bad to unbelievably bad, right? And so I think, look, the Bengals are just not a tough team. As I said on my podcast last week, I mean, Zach Taylor and Mike McDaniels are going to be up for who's going to host the Charmin commercial because they're both soft coaches.
Right.
And their teams are soft. And, they're trying to run Chad Brown, who's a really good player, but Chad Brown would be a more effective player as a nickel player than he is as a full-time back, right? They need some power to their team. And Burrow, really, to be honest with you, they're going to waste Burrow. He could be the next Dan Marino. Got to a Super Bowl, but never again.
The numbers are spectacular for Burrow. He did throw the one bad pick for the Cowboys' sake there to kind of keep them in a promising drive for the Bengals. 33 of 44 for 369, 3 touchdowns, the one pick. We get it. Jamar Chase is 14 receptions, $177. A lot of that was on Deron Bland. We've seen this before, Michael, with different defenses. At some point, I'm sitting there thinking the Cowboys can't stop Chase. They just can't stop him. Do you not make the move and say, let's put Trayvon Diggs on him? Or is it one of those deals where you go to my side, that's the way we play this defense? Like, we don't switch for one guy.
I think, to me, what's happened there is they've constantly – they move them around so much it's hard to get doubles on them. But I think when you saw the out route and Bland misses the tackle, that's what you can't have done, right? If you're going to call a zero blitz, and you got to make sure you tackle the talent. That's the problem when you're putting out there. Bland slipped, the kid comes back inside, and down he goes. Did you like the Simpsons part of it all? I thought it was pretty cool. Did you watch any of that?
I got to be honest. I was watching Buck and Aikman. Shout out to those guys. I think they just do a remarkable job year after year. How was the Simpsons broadcast? They showed like clips of it coming in and out of breaks.
I just saw clips of it.
Yeah.
I saw clips of it. I saw the Chase thing. I mean, I was listening to the Belichick pod for the most part. I listened to him in the beginning. If they would just let Coach talk, and let him call the game as he's seeing the game. I mean, to me, it's the greatest thing you have going. You have the greatest coach of all time watching the game as if he were on the headset with you. Who wouldn't want that, right?
Oh, man.
But, of course, naturally they get into more comedy. But it was interesting. But when you have Bland out there, you got to tackle the guy.
Yeah.
You can't be one-on-one out there. I mean, you got to be – when you call a zero blitz and you're a defensive coordinator and you got Chase out there, you're saying to yourself, man, we got to get him on the ground. And, he turns that thing in, and there goes the cover for all the Bengal backers, including me, which I needed that because I had Russo. Russo was 3-0 again. Russo's had 2 weeks in a row, David, where he's been 3-0. He's on a heater 6-0.
Oh, boy.
But he really hasn't made any hay with me on the contest because I'm 4-2 over the last 2 weeks. So
just keep him at arm's length, Michael.
It's been okay.
Yeah, keep fighting him off. Keep giving that Heisman Trophy arm's length. Keep him at distance.
To me, he's like when a guy makes a three-pointer in the first quarter, you're like, okay, I'll give you that. And then by the fourth quarter, he's still shooting. He's not going to make it, right?
Well, 4-2 is pretty darn good. So you just keep him at distance there. You're going to be all right. So the Bengals do, again, get that money. They do cover that number of 5.5, and that understays it at 50.5. Very quickly as well, when you look ahead to next week now for Dallas, they're going to go on the road to Carolina, and normally you don't see the Panthers as a favorite, but we do see that right now with Carolina opening as 1-point favorites there. The Bengals, if they're going to make some miraculous run here, Michael, they're going to go to Tennessee, and you got to win on the road. I don't know if I want to lay 4.5 here with the Bengals going forward, but listening to the teams afterward, and you mentioned Burrow, they feel like, man, they got a break, right? They get the break and the punt block by the Cowboys. And somehow retain possession and get the go-ahead score. Burrow alluded to it and said, we've had so many of these go against us. It was nice to get one that goes for us. Conversely, for the Cowboys, they just seem demoralized. I heard Micah Parsons talk, and he was distraught over the Overshown injury and, talking about how tough that kid's been to get back from his first injury, missing all of his rookie year. Mike McCarthy alluded to, like, we really felt like we were playing our best football. Like, these teams really believed, whether we believe on the outside looking at it as bettors or as fans, but they really believe that they could still turn this season around. I don't know that that's still for Dallas. I don't know that I'd want to be on the Cowboys side next week against the Panthers, who are playing better football. But conversely, does it interject a little bit of new life for the Bengals? We might not believe, but Michael, they do.
Well, they do. There's no question they believe. But I think at the end of the day, their defense is so bad. I mean, when Rico Dowdle's running for, what did he run for, 132 in the game?
Great game.
The Cowboys haven't been able to run the ball on anybody.
Right. Yep.
I think the Cowboys got too pass happy. I think 31 passing attempts was too many for Cooper Rush. Mm-hmm. But, I think they lost some rhythm there. And I think, to me, that was one of the biggest issues in the game. For me, I don't see the Bengals as a playoff team. I think Joe Burrow's a great player, and they have some great skill players, and they can move the football. But when the game becomes a battle in the trenches, which this will be against Tennessee with their front, how are they going to block Jeffrey Simmons there? Seriously, how are they going to block him? And look, this is an inter-squad game. I mean, both teams know each other really well.
Yeah.
Right? This is the Bengals run the same offense as the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans run the same offense. So, I don't know if I would lay 4.5 with Cincinnati. I don't trust them. I really don't. I don't trust Zach Taylor's team. I think that the Tennessee Titans will move the football. They can move the ball on anybody. Not on anybody. They can move the ball on the Bengals easily because everybody does. I mean, look, the Cowboys. Everybody's sitting there saying, "How can the Cowboys score points?" Which was true. They scored 20. But to me, bad teams can score against the Bengals. We went through all the scores yesterday, and that's why, do you really think the Cowboys were going to win? Could they hold them? And they did. Holding the Bengals at 27, I think, was a good night.
Yeah, and really should have been 20 if you just stay away from the blocked punt at the end. and your winning percentage is going to be around 80, 85, 90% if you've got a tie game inside the 2-minute warning on the plus side of the field. It's more likely than not you're going to win that game. And yes, Dallas, I thought the killer turnover, Michael, was the first play of the second quarter where Cooper Rush is trying to find CeeDee Lamb, and the receivers collide, and it leads to the interception. I felt like those points.
I wasn't sure that was a catch.
Yeah, I wasn't either. And they went to break, and it looked like it hit the ground, but I guess if his arm's still, the rule to me, Michael, of what is a catch. The NFL's done a great job of just muddying those waters through the years that nobody really knows. It's kind of like the JFK conspiracy theory. Like, we really don't know. We think we know, but we really don't. Is it a catch? I don't know, Michael.
We don't know.
I always think I know, but I don't know until they tell me whether or not it's a catch. But the Bengals do get the money, 27-20, the final on that one. Got a great show lined up, of course. Matt Humans is going to join us here this hour. Jonathan Von Tobel in hour number 2. A lot of injury reports, including Derek Carr. Looked like he was done in New Orleans. Is he? We'll discuss when you come back with us right here on the Lombardi Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Tuesday on Follow the Money, recap Monday Night Football, picks and props with Adam Chernoff, and contests, Survivor, Circa Millions with Derek Stevens, the owner of Circa. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We continue the Tuesday edition of the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross and Michael Lombardi here. I appreciate Michael lifting up my spirits after the A block there where the Cowboys lose 27-20 to put a bow on Week 14 of the NFL season. We're going to begin Week 15 with the Rams and Niners on Thursday. Niners opening up here 2.5-point favorites on that one. High total to 48.5. We'll discuss all of that. Matt Humans is going to join us in the next segment. Jonathan Von Tobel in hour number 2 as well. But some of these line moves, Michael, could be associated, obviously, with some injury news that we see out there. And one is down there in the Bayou, and the Saints will be hosting the Commanders this week. I was watching that Saints-Giants game, and Derek Carr scrambling and diving like Superman and comes down on his arm, and I don't know if he broke his arm or it looked like he was done. He's also in concussion protocol, but there is a chance he might still be able to go against the Commanders as the Saints are home underdogs by 7.5. What do you make of that? And if he can't go, does that really just say that the Saints rather would have no chance if Derek Carr can't play?
Well, I mean, it looked like that when Rattler took over. I mean, they struggled when he was out of the game. The line opened at 3.5 when Carr thought he was going to play, right? It was Washington favored by 3.5, and now it moved to 7.5 because of the Carr injury. I mean, Carr ruled himself out. Yeah, after the game, he said, I'm probably going to go on IR. And now he's coming back. I mean, I would not touch the Saints with Carr not feeling good. I think it really puts you in a tough spot with Rattler having to go in there against Washington and Washington coming off a bye week. Look, I think you got to throw the ball. I don't understand what the New York Football Giants were doing last week. They threw it. I watched that game yesterday when I got home from work 49 times. Whoa. I mean, it's a one-score game, and Drew Lock's throwing it every single play. I mean, at some point, you got to slow the game down, give yourself a chance. Giants had a punt return for a touchdown, call back for a penalty. You know, they had a field goal block. I mean, they just did everything you can do that bad teams do to lose games. They did it in that game. So, you know, I don't know how good the Saints are, actually. I think, to me, if you watch the game, and I'm sure the Giants, because they can't tell themselves the truth, they probably, we should have won this game if we didn't get the field goal block and we didn't get that. Well, that all happened, right? Yeah. You can't take it away. But to me, as a handicapper, you could take it away from wanting to put – do you want to go with the Saints at home with a bad quarterback and a defense that probably will have a hard time defending the forward pass?
You know, again, we go back to the Cowboy game with Cooper Rush in there for Dak Prescott, who's out for the year. And the Cowboys paid Cooper Rush to come back as the backup. And he's clearly just a backup quarterback in the league, but at least he's figuring out a niche for himself. You mentioned Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener. Do they have to figure out what they have? No disrespect to Derek, but if he's walking wounded anyway, and clearly even wouldn't be close to 100%, wouldn't you feel like if you're Darren Rizzi, who's trying to get a head coaching job here as the interim guy, and he's done a pretty good job here to kind of at least pump some life into the season, would you rather go with a healthy kids in Rattler and or Haener and try to figure out what you have if Derek Carr is not the long-term solution?
Yeah, I think they might have to just do that because when Carr ruled himself out, that tells you the mindset of the player. He said, I'm going to have to go on IR.
Right.
Now, it's his left wrist. It's not his right hand. It's not his throwing hand. So, you know, we'll see what happens. And, you know, obviously by Thursday we'll have a better idea. But if I were betting this at the line at 7.5, I think you got to stay away because if Carr plays, you know, and you feel like he could play, that 7.5's a little too much. You'd have to take the Saints here. But if he doesn't play, you know, does this line go to 8? I think that's the question mark. Does it keep moving up if Spencer Rattler is announced? I mean, Rattler, you know, couldn't really throw the ball down the field. He struggled, you know, with yards per attempt. I think he was at 5.8 yards per attempt per game when he played in there, below 60% completion percentage. So now you don't have – the problem with the Saints, to me, and I know this sounds ridiculous, Dave, but the Saints are a much better team when Taysom Hill's on the field.
Yeah.
Now, he's out for the year. But Taysom Hill is a jack of all trades. He does everything. You know, it's funny. When I watch Bo Nix now play, it finally dawned on me that Sean Payton has Bo Nix basically is a combination of Drew Brees and Taysom Hill all wrapped into one.
Wow.
That's what he is.
That's a great combination.
Right? That's what he is. But I don't think Saints fans or American football fans appreciated all the things that Taysom Hill was able to do, running the ball, converting third and short, doing all that. And when they lose him, you know, when they lose him in their lineup, it really affects their team. It really does. The guy now, he's only carried the ball 39 times all year. He averages 7 yards a carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think you start to realize now, oh boy, we kind of missed Taysom Hill and that jack of all trades and all those things he can do. Obviously, not the guy you want to be the quarterback for 17 weeks, but certainly you look at a spot like this. Your season's still technically alive, 40-1 to make the playoffs, 70-1 to win the division. If you're a Saints backer, those are extreme long shots, but it's going to get longer if Derek Carr can't go and you have to go to Rattler and or Haener. Raiders season has been long done. You can already cash those under tickets, 6.5. They can't get there. Only 2 wins with 4 weeks to go. Aiden O'Connell looked like he was done last week in their loss at Tampa Bay, but it looks like, I don't want to say just a bone bruise, easy for me to say, I don't have the bone bruise, but it looks like he's gonna try to go on Monday, Michael, against the Falcons on Monday night. What do you make of that? Because you also have Desmond Ridder, the castaway from Atlanta, and if you can't go to Aiden, maybe the revenge game spot here for Desmond Ridder to try to resurrect his career.
I think, to me, one of the things we don't, in these lower body injuries on quarterbacks, we really are more serious than the upper body ones because that's where you get the drive. And O'Connell's not a great thrower of the football. He doesn't drive the ball very well. And so I think, to me, if he has any lower body injury that he can't really move, because, look, let's face it, with this offensive line, not that the Falcons have a great pass rush, but this offensive line of the Raiders is not very good. They can't really protect. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to need to have some kind of movement on their team. I think you're going to have to move around. I mean, the Falcons only have 19 sacks all year. That's all they have, right? They traded for Judon. He's got 3.5, right? They just don't have any. They have to bring pressure from blitzing. And look, this team's given up 333 points this year. The Falcons' defense is not good. So I think with Ridder in the game, you may be able to run the football effectively on him. You know, it gives them a healthier quarterback where they can at least have some movement, because I do think the Falcons have been more blitz-oriented the last couple of weeks trying to generate some pass rush.
It will still be KC8 at the behind center for the Falcons. Raheem Morris reiterating that fact as well yesterday, saying, hey, it's still Kirk Cousins here. We're not going to Michael Penix just yet. By the way, after you get done with that Monday night game and Week 15 is done, you can always go over to Pick 6 from DraftKings if you need a little bit more NBA action. They are an official partner of the NBA. Very easy to do. All you have to do in the Pick 6 app, once you download it, is you can choose a player to look at a stat, say like points, rebounds, three-pointers, more or less. New Pick 6 players, you can bet play $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use code VSiN. That's VSIN. New customers going to play $5, get 50 in Pick 6 credits, something you do not want your quarterback to throw in the NFL. And one of those guys is Drew Lock, and he's going to have an MRI. The Giants are going to hope that he can still be the quarterback. That's according to Brian Daboll, if he's healthy. It's the biggest number on the board, Michael. There's no game.
It's unbelievable.
How about this? Every game is 7.5 or less, with the exception of this Ravens-Giants game, 15. The Ravens are now up to 15, and I don't know if that's Drew Lock because he can't go, but my goodness, what is
Tommy DeVito?
Is it Tommy
Baltimore
DeVito?
Coming off a bye.
Woo.
Yeah, Baltimore's coming off a bye. They're rested. They should be healthy. Lamar against this really bad Giant defense that can't really rush. I mean, they lose Dexter Lawrence. They have a hard time playing the run against people. 15's a lot of points, but there's no way you could get me to turn the card in. I would suspect that Harry on Thursday, I think whenever we have Harry on maybe tomorrow, he's probably going to tease this up to get 22.
Right.
But I don't even know if that's enough. Right?
That's the quantity.
I couldn't take the Giants. I mean, you can't take the Giants. I don't know. You know, everybody suspects that, you know, John Mara says he's bringing everybody back, but like this team is so bad. They can't score. They're one of the worst offenses in all of football. You know, they're 11th in the National Football League in yards per attempt rushing, but they never call any runs. And even when they're in a one-score game, they're the 8th team in the league in terms of calling pass plays. And you could say, well, Lombardi, that's because they're behind in games and they have to throw it. Not really. They just want to throw it. Daboll acts like an offensive coach. He's just calling plays. They can't do anything when they call them. They're 28th in the league in yards attempt passing, 32nd in average. But they can't. It takes them 20 plays to go 20 yards. Wow. I mean, seriously, that's what it does.
the Eagles last week were the only team to be double-digit favorites. They're 12.5 against Carolina, and it was life and death to hold on and just win the game. I couldn't imagine this happening in New Jersey, where the Ravens, as the only massive favorite here, 15-point favorites, are struggling to beat the Giants like the Eagles did last week. But, boy, if somehow the impossible happened, the Ravens, forget about the division, Michael. They got to start thinking about wild card. Like they got to win some games here.
Yeah, if I had the $3.1 million like the guy from Kentucky bet on the Eagles, I think he may come back and bet it again on this one.
Yep,
on the money line.
This, as an example of what not to do, this might be the one to do it. Matt Humans joins us next here on the Lombardi Line.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are back on the Tuesday edition of the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross, Michael Lombardi here with you. Always love catching up with Matt Humans here on Tuesdays. And I think some of the cooler things we do at the network here, Michael, one of them is the Friday Football Invitational that Matt hosts each and every week. And you got some of the sharpest minds out there in the betting space. Matt joins us now here in the Progressive Guest Line. Matt, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty where you're getting some cuts and some people are not making the cut anymore. How many people are we down to here in the Friday Football Invitational?
Eric Stevens puts up 25,000. We start with 25 handicappers. We've cut 2 a week for the last 6 weeks, the bottom 2 in the standings, so we're down to 13, and working our way to the Elite 8 for the final 2 weeks of the season. And those 8 finish it out. So Steve Fezzik, Las Vegas Pro Bettor, and Kelly Stewart both got cut this past weekend.
Wow. And so just so everybody's clear, Matt, they can bet college or pro overs and unders for their 6 picks every week. And who's in first place?
Yeah, 7 best bets every week, 7 plays, 1 best bet that's worth 1.5 if you win it. And Chuck, the Iceman Edel, Las Vegas Pro Bettor, is on top of the standings. I think he's got a 5-point lead. Chuck, ironically, was the first contestant cut last year, and then in 2022 he finished second place. So I think in even-numbered years, Chuck Edel is a handicapper you got to follow. Hey, I want to ask you, too, talking about the sharpest minds in sports betting. Dave Ross, did you win that contest last week when you picked every winner but one on the NFL card?
Matt, it makes me sick to my stomach. This is my second year entering that contest here out in Vegas. 14-1 a week ago. And you're not going to believe this. There were 26 people in this contest that went undefeated 15-0 that same week that I went 14-1. So not only did I not get the money, I was in 27th place.
Okay.
Did you believe? I'm feeling so good about myself, Matt. Now I finally belong here in Vegas, right? I can go out there and possibly get a 10K. No, I got $0 for that. I look at it now, Matt, and I go, I got to be perfect in the week. And I felt like I was having another good week this week. Going to Monday night last night, and I was 11-2 going into the contest last night. And, Matt, I picked the Cowboys. And not only did they not get the win.
Of course he did. He couldn't help himself, Matt. I mean, Matt, yesterday on the show, he's talking about Super Bowl for the Cowboys. I mean, he's actually thinking we got a chance.
Well, Rich Gannon was on with us, Matt, and he was with me. He liked the Cowboys yesterday. And not only do they not get the win, they don't get the cover, Matt. That's one of those bad beats that we talk about, but it does happen. What'd you make of the contest last night, and were you on the right side?
Yeah, Dave, first of all, Rich Gannon was probably just patronizing you as a Cowboys fan. And the other thing is, it's not 1995 anymore. Okay? So you don't even talk about Super Bowls. What I made of the game is bad teams find ways to lose games. And last night, the Cowboys' defense did get shredded for 433 total yards. But again, on that pump block, that's completely unacceptable to have a player whose football IQ is that low to, muff that recovery. And Cowboys are going to have great field goal position, and they got if not the best kicker in the league, close to it, and they're going to kick a field goal as time expires to win that game. And that's typical of the Cowboys season last night. And, it's not like things have been going right for the Bengals, but everything's been going wrong for the Cowboys. Now the Dallas defense loses linebacker DeMarvin Overshown. I know Michael watches tape every week. Overshown's a hell of a player. He's all over the field, and now he's not going to be on the field for a long time. So it's another setback for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and this week they go into travel to Carolina, and you like the Panthers laying the point. I know, Dave, but Dave, you might want to mute your button here, mute your volume, because he likes the Panthers versus the Cowboys.
I can hear Dave laughing in the background, so he's not muted. But you know what? As a handicapper, you can't be too stubborn, and it is a fluid situation. So, I never would have thought 2 months ago I'd be sitting here saying I like the Panthers in the middle of December. But since beginning of November, Carolina's 5-0 against the spread, 3-2 straight up, lost 1-score games to the Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Eagles. And Carolina's is playing better football right now. It's a young team that's showing up motivated every week and not making many mistakes. Hey, if you had the Eagles in the Survivor contest, you were sweating bullets at the end of that game Sunday. The Panthers were a drop pass away from beating the Eagles in Philadelphia. So I think the arrow's pointing up for this team. I'm not sure it's long term. It could be just a short thing here at the end of the season. I'm not saying that's a team to watch in 2025. But the Panthers got a lot of good things going on right now, and the Cowboys do not. And by the way, this will end if the Panthers close as favorites, and I believe they will. Right now, 1-point favorites, a couple spots have 1.5. This will stop a 33-game streak as underdogs for the Panthers.
Wow. Look, in all seriousness, I'm with you guys. The only way I think you could play that is the Panthers with the injuries to the Cowboys and maybe just being demoralized with that loss last night, short week, cross-country over to Carolina. So I'm kind of with you there, Matt. I'm also with you when I look at the Steelers, and they're getting 5 in Philadelphia, and I look at that and I go, why can't the Steelers win that game? Like the way that they're playing, and the Eagles did kind of get through that game. Maybe they were looking ahead to this one here in the Battle of Pennsylvania, but what is it a play on the Steelers or a play against the Eagles too big of a number?
Well, there are 2 games that jump off the page this week as great matchups. Bills-Lions, Steelers-Eagles. And, I've bet on the Steelers several times this season. They're 10-3 against the spread. Mike Tomlin, 5-0 straight up as an underdog.
Wow.
This season. And the Steelers offense 2 weeks ago put up 520 yards against Cincinnati when Russell Wilson passed for 414. Now, the offense was not as sharp against Cleveland, 267 yards. Wilson only threw for 158. But again, I really do like the Steelers. For some reason, they play better in the dog role. And the Philadelphia offense is sputtering right now, especially the passing attack. And I wanted to ask Michael what he sees from Jalen Hurts because Eagles have won 9 in a row. I kind of feel like they're begging to get beat. They were outgained 302 to 292 by Carolina. And they were minus 7 minutes in time of possession. Jalen Hurts, 108 yards passing. He took 4 sacks. Previous week against Baltimore, outgained 372 to 252. Also minus 7 minutes time of possession. And Hurts passed for 118 and took 2 sacks. So in the past 2 games total, 226 passing yards for Hurts, and he sacked 6 times. I think the Steelers can go in and win this game.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, when you watch the tape, I mean, Hurts just, there's no rhythm to what they're doing. And this is 6 games in a row now that the Philadelphia Eagle offense has gained more yards on the ground than they have through the air. You have to go back to the Bengal game in Week 8 when they actually threw the football effectively. Now, what they're really good at doing is making an explosive play, but there's a disconnect, and it's all over the media here in Philadelphia. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Jalen's a different cat now. And I think, to me, this isn't like Burrow where he rallies the troop. Hey, Jalen Hurts a different kind of guy. And thankfully they have Saquon Barkley, because if they didn't have Barkley, I said this yesterday, Matt, if they take Barkley off this team, I'm not sure how good this Eagle team is offensively.
No, you're right about that, because Barkley's made all the difference. There is a disconnect. You can see it, and I read some of those comments about the relationship between Hurts and A.J. Brown, and to me that just kind of plays into this a little bit. I think the Eagles' win streak is going to end soon. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends this week. I like the Steelers +5 here.
Let's talk about the Seahawks here, Matt, because I'm really impressed, obviously, with what they've done year one with Mike McDonald there. Their defense is playing a lot better. They won 2 of the last 3 against Arizona in the 3 weeks. They're on a 4-game winning streak, and yet they're dogs at home against the Packers. And I get it, how well the Packers are playing too, but Sunday night in Seattle, 12th man, all of those things, are you looking at the points? Do you think the Seahawks can win this game outright?
Yeah, it's one of those where you see a few 2.5s out there at some books, but mostly 3. And I want to grab the number here, take Seahawks +3. And they've won 4 in a row, 2 of those against the Cardinals, obviously. But I did think the Seattle offense really operated smoothly against the Cardinals. 409 yards, 6.7 per play. Geno Smith didn't make really any mistakes. The one thing that bothers me a little bit, the Seahawks have not been that great at home this season.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really count on that typical home field advantage for Seattle. That's kind of way in the past. They're 3-4 at home this season. And I think the dog +3 is a little bit of value on the number. I was on the Packers +3.5 last week at Detroit and barely got away with the win in that one. But I'm going to take the Seahawks +3 here, and I think the NFC West is going to come down to Week 18, Seahawks at the Rams.
Matt, how about real quick Thursday night? Who do you like in that game?
I think the situation's a lot better for the 49ers. And Brock Purdy looked a lot better against the Bears, obviously. 20 for 25, 325 yards. San Francisco defense sacked Caleb Williams 7 times. And the Rams are coming off this big game against the Bills where he rolled up 457 yards and 44 points. But I love the Rams last week. I really don't like him Thursday night. My one concern is, do the 49ers have any healthy running backs to put on the field Thursday night?
Check him out, VSiN Primetime Friday Football Invitational, the one and only Matt Humans, who does not play golf during football season. That's what he tells me.
That's right.
Man, we got to lift that moratorium. When we come back, rookie report cards. That's next here on the Lombardi Line.
Got a good thing coming. Just wait and see. It's a good.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN Expert Analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here alongside Michael Lombardi, I am Dave Ross. This is the Lombardi Line here on a Tuesday with Week 14 in the rear view mirror. Yesterday in the program, Michael, you really did a good job of breaking down some of these rookie head coaches and how some teams just have not gotten better. Others have with the change in coaching, and you know how this works. We're going to get to Black Monday here at the end of the year, and we're going to see a lot of other coaches come and go, and you have to start to determine, when I make these changes, are we doing these for the better of the team going forward? So let's give out some rookie report cards, if we will, for some of these first-year head coaches in their place. Now, Antonio Pierce, is a bit of a different situation because he got the interim job last year, officially became the head coach this year. Now, the win total, they can't get there. It was 6.5, Michael. They only have two wins with 4 to go, which makes me happy because I did play the under. The adjusted win total now is 3.5 for this team. What do you make of Antonio Pierce, and what grade do you give the Raiders head coach?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I've been complaining about him all year. I mean, I don't see how the Raiders are going to be able to win the West with the situation that they have. I mean, he's on his own, right? Last year you could say McDaniels was a bad coach. McDaniels doesn't know what he's doing, yada, yada, yada. But, when he left, there was still tenets of McDaniels' program within that system. So the next year, Pierce comes in and he gets to hire his own staff. He's got 90,000 former head coaches on the coaching staff, and it's been a disaster. I mean, I don't see how it's anything but an F. I really don't. I mean, they were fortunate to beat Baltimore. They would really have one win if Baltimore would have played better in the fourth quarter. They beat Cleveland at home when Deshaun Watson. Do you think they beat Cleveland now with Jameis Winston? Of course you don't.
No.
It's no chance. So, I mean, look, they played Kansas City tough. That was their Super Bowl. And then last week against Tampa, they laid a big egg. You knew that was coming. And I just think, to me, in the past, they've always had Denver's number. I mean, Denver struggled to win a game against them, and now Denver sweeps them 2 games to love this year. So I don't see how it's anything but an F. He might get one more win. He's got Jacksonville and New Orleans on the schedule, and then he's got the Chargers probably in a meaningless game at the end of the year. So could he get up to 2? Could he get 2 more wins? Maybe, but with quarterbacking situation the way it is, and most alarming about their team is how bad they've gotten defensively, which I'm sure if he's able to keep his job, he'll fire Pat Graham at the end of the year. Blame him.
2-2 to 2-11, 9 straight losses for the Silver and Black. Hey, the Falcons, they were the toast of the South, right? 6-3, everything looks great. We got Kirk Cousins playing at a high level. Raheem Morris doing a great job here his first year down there in the ATL. 4 straight losses since
right.
they've hit the skids. I still can't believe the preseason win total, Michael, was 10.5. for this team.
Well, it's because the media, because they got Kirk Cousins, and they all believe the Super Bowl winning general manager, Terry Fontenot, saying that we're just one player away. They never were one player away. You didn't hear it on this network.
No.
We didn't say it. We thought it was a joke, And so, look, the team got worse on defense. That's really the biggest issue. They went from third in the National Football League last year in third down defense. They were 4th in red zone defense. They went to 31st this year, and they're 24th this year. That's clearly the case of getting worse, and they're soft. The effort on the team, I've been complaining about this team before they quickly dismissed Belichick as being a candidate for the head coaching job. When they picked Bijan Robinson, I said at that time, why are you picking a running back in the top 10? I get it, he's a great player. I respect the hell out of his talent, but you have Algier. Algier averages 5 yards a carry this year. Bijan averages 4.5. I mean, Algier gives him some toughness and some power. If Algier was on the Bengals, he would really help their team. But to me, this team is mismanaged, and the decision to hire Raheem wasn't, to me, to make their team better. It was all to make sure that they all secured their jobs within that building. I give them all an F.
You got 6 wins now. The adjusted win total is 8.5. Do that math. You'd have to win 3 out of the last 4. That's the Raiders on Monday night, the Giants. You get the Panthers to wrap it up.
You know why it's 8.5? Can I tell you why it's 8.5, David? Yeah. Because they have the Giants and Carolina left on the schedule,
That's
right?
it.
They have Carolina at home. They have the Giants and Carolina left at home. So the book's saying they're probably going to win those 2. Can they split between the Raiders and the Commanders on the road? So to me, what you're saying is if you're betting the over 8.5, if you're betting that they're going to win 3 of the next 4, then you're saying that they're going to beat the Raiders, they're going to beat the Giants, probably lose to the Commanders, and beat Carolina.
Not with my money. I'm not laying that with the Falcons, trusting them to win 3
if they had a star on their helmet, you'd be running to the thing. If they had a star on their helmet, you would be running to the window.
I mean, you're not lying. You're not telling you are kind of telling the truth. How about the Patriots with Gerard Mayo, year one, replacing Bill Belichick? The preseason win total was 4.5. Could get there, but it would take a stretch. The adjusted win total is down to 3.5. You got to lay some juice there at $1.75. What do you make of what Mayo has done year one?
Well, I mean, Mayo blames Belichick for everything. So it's like he's basically taken a mulligan. He's given himself a mulligan on the season. Look, I think the one thing about the Patriots, I think it's clearly a D for him and as a grade, is there's hope with Drake May. I mean, Drake May looks like he's got a chance. Now, I don't know if the offense is conducive to him, but this offensive line has not been very good. They really didn't add any receiver help. I mean, they talked about having all these receivers. Everybody they drafted hasn't come through for them, right? Most of the players that are playing good for the team are the ones that they had on the team. I mean, Polk, who they drafted in the second round, averages 7.3 yards a catch. When you look at their team, when you look at the players, they're just not that, and they had all the money. I mean, they had all the money. They got a good young rookie quarterback who they didn't play from initially because of the offensive line, which I agreed with. But they had all this money in the offseason. They haven't made their team better. Now, they blame Bill for everything, which is wonderful. They can get away with doing that because that's who they are. But the reality of it is other than May, what's the hope for the team? They've gotten worse on defense. Defensively last year, they were good.
Yeah.
They were good in all situational football, and this year they're not. I mean, this year they're just not a good defense at all.
3.5 is the adjusted win total. They have 3 wins at Arizona, at Buffalo. It looks like how are they going to win one more game? You got to lay $1.75 that they win one of the last 4. All right, good luck. Tennessee, Michael, was a team that I identified all summer as a play against team, and that has been profitable this year. Their preseason win total was 5.5. Good luck getting there. It's now adjusted down to 4.5, and this has been the worst ATS team in the league this year. Started week 1 against the Bears in a game they should have won, and somehow not only did they not win, they don't cover. Brian Callahan comes over. He's supposed to be, the Bengals now taking that offense down there. What do you make and what grade do you give Brian Callahan in year 1 in Tennessee?
Well, he got hired to save Will Levis, right? He got hired to save him. They're 30th in the league in points scored offensively. They're 28th in yards per attempt throwing the ball down the field. They're trying to run Cincinnati's offense, a spread attack. They have no physicality to their team. They're exactly what Zach Taylor's team is. Why would you duplicate that? Rand Carthon, believes in it. They went from a great head coach in Mike Vrabel to a bad head coach in Brian, who's learning on the job. Let's face it. I mean, you got to give them nothing but a D here, or an F, frankly. Yeah. I mean, to me, they haven't gotten any better. And, they beat Miami earlier in the year, but they didn't have Tua, so that's a win. They won an overtime game. They beat New England. I mean, I think they were in control of that game, but they made it a lot closer than it should have. And then they surprised everybody and beat Houston, and they thought, okay, now we're coming back. They get blown out against Washington, and they can't close out Jacksonville in the fourth quarter because they can't make critical plays. I don't see it. I mean, I just don't see it with Will Levis. I think they are trapped in Will Levis in terms of believing he's going to be a good player, and I don't believe that at all.
6 points at home against Jacksonville in December. That is a red flag for sure if you're looking for progress from Tennessee. If you're looking for it with the Panthers, I think you found it in Dave Canales. Can we say that he's at least met the expectations in your eyes, Michael? Is that fair with the preseason win total of 4.5? Now, I don't know if they're going to get there, obviously. It's still right there at 4.5, by the way. But they are playing better football. Is that enough to give Dave Canales maybe a C?
Well, I mean, look, they've won 2 overtime. They've been in 2 overtime games in the last 4 weeks. They won 1, lost 1. They lost to Tampa overtime, which was a heartbreaker because of that fumble by Hubbard.
Yep.
But, they've played everybody close, right? They have. They've played everybody close. I mean, they lose a 1-point game to New Orleans. I mean, they won a 1-point game to New Orleans. I mean, so to me, a lot of this comes down to, I think, where you have to give Canales a good grade is because he has gotten the quarterback to play respectfully. I'm not saying the quarterback's playing great by any means. I mean, it's good. It's not great. He still doesn't throw the ball down the field. They're at 5.9 yards per attempt. They can't make a play. mean, they drafted a running back last year in the second round, used a high draft pick on a running back who's coming off an ACL, and guess what happened, Dave?
ACL.
He tore his ACL again.
Yep.
So they just wasted a pick there on a guy who was coming in injured, And so I'm not sure that Canales has gotten a fair shake by this front office, but he has made the quarterback look more presentable, no question.
By the way, Jonathan Brooks, who you're alluding to out of Texas, that's a tough one. By the way, VSiN.com, check it out. We got college basketball best bets from Hoops Peterson, Josh Applebaum with his college football insights. Zach's got you covered for the NBA. We got Samich and Shine and Jonathan Davis with his puck. It's all there for you at VSiN.com. Hour number 2, we'll find out what's on Michael's mind next here on the Lombardi Line.
Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard share their knowledge of sports, gambling, and pop culture on Follow the Money at a new time.